I never thought it would happen to me, but there I was, standing in the grand ballroom of my brother's wedding, watching the love of my life, my husband, step through the doors with his ex. And that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was that he didn't seem the least bit embarrassed. In fact, he looked proud. But let me back up a little. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and tell us where you are listening. Your support means everything. It was my younger brother's wedding. I'll admit, I had a whole Pinterest board for it. I always imagined this day would be one of the happiest moments of my life, filled with all the joy and excitement of seeing my family come together in celebration. I thought, hey, I have it all. My successful career, my beautiful family, and of course, my incredibly rich and charming husband, Eric. Eric and I met in the most cliché way possible, at a work event. He was one of the keynote speakers, and I was the event coordinator. He was handsome in that effortless way, and the way he carried himself with confidence and power drew me in immediately. It didn't take long before we were dating, then married. He had a reputation. Everyone knew him as the millionaire businessman who could charm the socks off anyone in the room. And trust me, he did just that. He was everything I thought I wanted, except for one thing I didn't know yet: his past. That night, at my brother's wedding, everything came crashing down. Let me set the scene. The ballroom was perfect. Crystal chandeliers glittered above, soft music played in the background, and the scent of white roses filled the air. My brother, Alex, looked stunning in his tuxedo, standing at the altar with his bride, Emily. I could see my parents beaming with pride. It should have been a picture-perfect moment, one of those moments you store in your memory forever. But I couldn't focus on anything but the fact that Eric had been acting off. It started a few days before the wedding. He was distant. He'd spend hours on his phone, looking irritated whenever I asked him about it. I tried to brush it off. After all, he had a business to run, and sometimes that came with stress. But as the day of the wedding drew closer, his behavior only got more erratic. When I asked him what was going on, he told me, "It's nothing, just work stuff." Then came the day of the wedding. We arrived together, looking every bit the power couple. I had on my custom-made dress that was more than a year's salary for some people. Eric was in his designer tux, the one that cost more than I'd ever be able to afford on my own. We were the center of attention, as usual, and I was basking in the joy of my brother's big day. Until the moment the doors opened. At first, I didn't see them. But then, I heard a familiar voice, a voice that made my stomach drop. "Eric, it's so good to see you again." I turned around to find him, standing next to his ex-girlfriend Megan. She was stunning, wearing a simple but elegant dress that made everyone else look like they'd tried too hard. Her long dark hair cascaded down her back, and her smile, well, it was the same smile I'd seen in all those old photos Eric had never quite been able to get rid of. Megan and Eric had been together for years before we met. She was the one he talked about with a level of nostalgia that always made me feel uncomfortable. I brushed it off at first, telling myself I was being paranoid. But standing there, watching them interact like they had never broken up, something snapped inside me. Eric gave her a hug, too tight for comfort, and I watched as he whispered something in her ear, causing her to laugh. The sound of it made my blood boil. I should have confronted him right there, but my brother was about to walk down the aisle, and I didn't want to ruin everything for him. So, I gritted my teeth and stood there, pretending nothing was wrong. But I couldn't let it go. It felt like I was suffocating, watching my husband stand beside the woman who was his past, someone he obviously still felt comfortable with. It wasn't just the hug. It was the way they spoke, the way their eyes met. It was clear they had history, deep history, and I hated every second of it. I tried to convince myself I was being irrational, but deep down, I knew something wasn't right. We sat through the ceremony, and I couldn't focus on a word being said. All I could think about was the fact that Eric had brought Megan as his date, his ex, at my brother's wedding. A wedding where, for once, I wanted to be the center of attention with my perfect life and perfect marriage. Instead, there she was, smiling at Eric like she had a right to be there. As soon as the ceremony ended, I pulled Eric aside. "What's going on?" I asked, my voice shaking with a mixture of anger and hurt. "Why is she here with you?" Eric looked taken aback, his brows furrowing in confusion. "What do you mean? She's just a friend. You know that." "A friend?" I almost laughed. "She's not just a friend, Eric. You and I both know that." He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "It's complicated, okay? But you don't need to worry about it. Let's just enjoy the night." But I couldn't just let it go. I couldn't stand there and pretend like I didn't know what was happening. The anger bubbling up inside me needed to be let out. So I said something I never thought I'd say. "Why don't you just leave with her, Eric? If you want to be with her so badly, just go. I'll find my own way home." He looked at me, the coldness in his eyes piercing right through me. "You're being ridiculous. You know I love you." "I'm not ridiculous," I snapped. "You're the one who brought your ex to my brother's wedding. How long has this been going on, Eric?" The words stung as they left my mouth, but they needed to be said. For the first time, I was standing up for myself, not caring about the consequences. And surprisingly, that's when everything changed. Megan came up behind him, her voice sweet but cutting. "Is everything all right, Eric? You didn't tell me you were having a conversation with your wife. I thought we were all friends here." I turned to face her, my heart pounding in my chest. "You're not my friend. You're the woman who never really let go of him, and I'm done pretending I don't see it." Eric's face went white. He didn't say anything at first, his gaze shifting between me and Megan. The tension in the air was thick, and I could see people starting to notice the confrontation. But I didn't care anymore. "I want a divorce," I said, my voice steady but firm. "I'm not going to stand by and watch you disrespect me like this. You can go off with her and live whatever fantasy you two have, but I won't be a part of it." Eric's expression faltered. For the first time in years, I saw him truly look shocked, like he hadn't expected me to call him out like this. Megan opened her mouth, but I held up a hand, silencing her. "You have a choice, Eric. You can stay with her, or you can stay with me. But don't you dare make me feel like I'm not enough. I deserve better than this." There was a long pause, and I could feel the eyes of everyone in the room on us. And then, something unexpected happened. Eric turned to Megan, and without a word, he walked away from her. He walked straight to me, his face a mixture of guilt and regret. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I messed up. I never should have brought her here." I wanted to slap him, to scream at him, but instead, I took a deep breath. "No, Eric, you messed up. You made your choice. Now I'm making mine." It was the hardest thing I'd ever done, but I left him standing there, alone, while I walked out of the ballroom. The wedding wasn't ruined for me. In fact, I realized I was finally free,